First and foremost, there has been a lot of change in the ICT sector, largely facilitated probably by legislation and policies, as emanating, in our case, the Electronic Communications Act, which then came up with a law which really was trying to facilitate what we are now talking about here in terms of convergence. Now, convergence could mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but in simple terms, convergence means the coming together of certain services operating under one platform, for instance, data and voice. But also the other aspect, which is far much more of critical importance today, is the convergence of telecommunication market, the information market, the media market, and the entertainment market. That in itself is a new dispensation. And when you look at this, you look at the terminal equipment that could provide these services. Clearly, broadcasting, especially digital broadcasting, you can use a keyboard in other instances to access internet. And the computer can also be used to have access to television channels. Now that in itself means there is convergence between information technology and telecommunication. Now with regard to media, obviously you would argue that broadcasting, radio, television, newspapers, CDs, etc., and all kinds of things. The internet is there to access all of those types of information, entertainment, etc. So we are reaching a situation where I can say right now there are going to be a lot of changes. And this is largely also undergirded by a network which is called New Generation Network. And a lot of people can have their different definitions on that. But it's an IP-based network that can provide all other types of services without discrimination. It's a core network which in itself will result in the provision of services, as I'm pointing out, that are, my acronym is TIME sector: telecommunication, information, media, and entertainment. That in itself will mean that the market will have to change, naturally. And there will now be competition between broadcasting services, telecommunication services, information technology services, using their different types of terminal equipment, of course, the TV, the cell phone, or the landline, as well as the computer, providing the same kind of services, not without any distinction. And the Act has allowed us to be technology neutral and service neutral. We couldn't care what type of means of carriage you are using to provide whatever type of services. So this would augur well for the new economy, as I would like to call it that way. That now we have to look at what kind of regulation or policy framework will have to be set up in the light of these advances that have been more or less driven by digital technologies. There's no doubt about that. Now, there is need for broadband. Everybody has already indicated. Mamadou has indicated that voice certainly will not play as, there will always be voice because people will always want to talk. There's no doubt about that. So voice will always be there under whatever circumstance, but it will just be a service. It will just be part and parcel of a service. If you look at VoIP, for instance, via the internet, you are now asking yourself, well, it looks like the internet and the telecommunication network more or less can provide the same kind of services. But what I think would be important is now to work out a mechanism to facilitate this convergence, which naturally is coming to happen. And clearly other sectors will be affected negatively. Broadcasting services will have to shape up, or they will shape out. Now that we are moving to the digital network scenario, they do have an opportunity to get into the broadband space. As you know, there are these vertical banking lines that exist within broadcasting services, which are about 10, and out of this you can get 150 kilobits per second. So broadcasting services could actually get into the data market through that. They can get into the internet market as well. Bandwidth market. If they don't choose to do that, then they will be missing the boat. Because for them to depend only on broadcasting via the television will be a lost cause. You talk about IPTV through a telecommunication system. That in itself means that I can get whatever I get from my television through the telecommunication system. But not only that, with the internet, I can now determine to become a program director of what I want to have a look at. Not necessarily whether a broadcaster's got 100 or 50 channels. All that is of concern to me is what is of interest to me. And the internet provides that basic platform to say, well, I'm interested in that program, that I'll get. You don't have to go home to wait for a particular program to happen at a particular time. That's the beauty of what has happened. As we move along, we're going to now be faced with everything coalescing in the final analysis to internet services. And we will only be talking about information services, no longer telecommunication, voice, video. It will all be information. Because it's not so much the technology that people are interested in, it's more the content that people pay for. The fact that commercial broadcasters can do well compared to public broadcasters is because they provide entertaining content. You know, you can, entertaining content, sports, movies. Some people will go to erotica, etc., and all kinds of things. And people go and move into that. And the eyeball is caught there. Now, advertisers who are interested in how many people are you gathering to watch a particular program will be such that you, the broadcaster, who provides a particular program that will make people pay attention to it, Nielsen company will look at the numbers and say, a lot of people are paying attention to this program, therefore, here's your advert revenue, etc., and all that. So as you can look at that, there's huge competition that is going to arise, which is good because competition creates innovation, not only innovation, but creates inefficiency, and also, of course, provide quality services, etc., because people will compete, etc., and all that. So I guess in the final analysis, let us find out exactly what the market wants or what the market is prepared for in the future in the light of these changes. So you got technological innovation and you got a market need. So you got to now bring these together to say, this is what will succeed in the marketplace. Because if you cannot marry the two, you can have your technological gadgets, etc., but they may not mean anything to the consumer. Find out precisely what the consumer is interested in. Then have a kind of means, capabilities. Technology is nothing other than the word capability to provide certain services. And that in that particular respect, I believe that attention should be paid to consumer need and find out in terms of the consumer need, what kind of technology would best suit providing this kind of services, first and foremost, to satisfy customer needs and to achieve a company business objectives, as it were.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.